All right, it's about that time again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 30-minute workshop. My name is Jim Schultens, a systems engineer here at Verify, and I'll be your host for today's session. I'm happy to be joined here today by the one and only Victor Verba, aka GCDR Jesus. How you doing today, Vic?
I'm doing good, man. Excited to get some database archiving going
Awesome.
here.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. If you joined us last week, we talked about a new feature that will be available soon in version 13 called multi-database support. Today, Vic is going to take it up one step further and show us Verify's upcoming auto database archiving feature, also coming out in version 13. Please note that these workshops are always recorded and posted on our website and on our YouTube page. So if you do ever miss one or have to leave early or just want to be able to review it again at your own pace, check the webinars page on our website for all past and upcoming webinars. All right, on the agenda for today, we'll start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do. Then we'll jump into a live demo where Vic's going to guide us through the auto database archiving feature. We'll then pause for some Q&A during the demo. If you do have any questions, make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel in the bottom right of your screen. And then after Q&A, we'll reward one lucky attendee a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around to see if you've won. All right, quick overview of Verify. Verify is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. Deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading CDR reporting and call analytics, as well as customizable dashboards and widgets, UCCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, and now we also offer Cisco Cube reporting and dashboarding. If you have any questions about any of these features, or if you have any interest in evaluating the Cube offering, please contact us at support@verify.com or reach out to your account manager. One more thing before we kick it off. For an additional fee, Verify offers an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Verify's SE team engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you a dedicated Verify SE to do the heavy lifting, giving you a stress-free, hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us and we'd be happy to speak more in depth about this service. All right, well, let's get into the wild, Vic. I will make you presenter.
All right, here we go. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. So we've done a couple of webinars or workshops on the multi-database support and kind of what it is. The purpose of today's webinar or workshop here is to go ahead and show you how to configure it if you currently have a Verify instance. And then we're going to go ahead and with the time that we have left, we're going to show it in action. So the idea behind multi-database or database archiving, in this case, automatic database archiving, is to allow Verify to kind of compartmentalize some of your data. So currently, if you're running a Verify system and whether you're housing 6 months of data or 6 years worth of data, all that data is going into a singular database. Depending on the size of your system, that database can get pretty large. Or even if it's a smaller system, you may have a decent amount of data that you don't really query with regularity. So the idea behind auto database archiving is really to help improve that customer experience, that end user experience. When you're holding an excessive amount of data, maybe for compliance, but you don't really need it. It's not queried day to day. Your normal day-to-day operations don't require you to report 6 years ago, but you need that data there. You need that seamless reporting, and that's really where auto database archiving comes in. It's going to provide the end users with a seamless reporting for all of their historic data, but it's really going to help improve that day-to-day experience where, you know, you're running your daily reports, your weekly reports, your monthly reports. You have your widgets set up to look at relatively current data, we'll say in the last, 30 days, 60 days. So what we're going to do with database archiving is we're going to have a primary database Primary database, think of as this is what my end users normally query. So, if I'm housing 6 years worth of data, on average, most of my people logging in to verify are probably running reports for daily things, weekly, maybe monthly, previous month type information. So what we're going to do with auto database archiving is we're going to help keep that primary database smaller, because that's kind of what you want your end users to be using all the time. And then we're going to go ahead and archive that older data. It's still there. It's still seamless reporting for verify. However, it's not going to use all the system resources necessary to query 6 years worth of data every time I need to run a report for this month or this week. So let's go ahead and jump into it and walk you through how to go ahead and set it up on an existing cluster. So I've got a temporary cluster over here. Anybody that's familiar with Verify is going to notice that the screen changes a little bit. Everything used to be kind of under a single UI, but now you've noticed that we have managed CDR processing, sync, and CDR databases over here. So if I go to my CDR processing tab, what you're going to see is my cluster. You're going to see the one database that I currently have, and it's going to show you the available data that I have in this particular database. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up automatic database archiving. So click my little gear button, and that's going to go ahead and take me into the interface. A lot of this is going to look very familiar for most of you. But what you're going to notice here, we've got some new settings. Enable database archiving. So the first thing you're going to do is turn on database archiving. All right. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to select your database server. Now, the cool thing about database archiving is you don't have to have everything on one SQL server. I can have my primary database, in other words, the data that my end users are querying regularly, on one SQL server. Maybe that SQL server is running on Verify. And then I can archive my databases onto a separate SQL server that just basically sits there and houses information. So I can have a separate MS SQL server and a local MySQL server. So we're pretty flexible with how you want to configure your database archives. And when you're setting this up, we're always more than happy to kind of jump on the line with you and give you some architectural ideas and best use case ideas, because there's really no one size fits all. And you're going to kind of see that as we go through our purge settings here and as we set up database archiving. It really depends on how you use your environment. Some people with regularity report 60 days. Some people report just a month. So we're more than always happy to work with you guys to help you guys configure your environment, based on your data size and how much data you guys have coming in. For this particular case, we're just going to go ahead and shove everything onto a single server. So I'm going to pick my local SQL server here. And then what I'm going to do here, and this is very important, this is probably the most important thing that you're going to do throughout this setup, is you're going to rename your existing primary database. You have to do this. If you don't do this, you may lose data, and you're going to see why. So I'm going to rename my primary database, and I'm just going to append underscore primary to this database, and you're going to see why we're appending primary onto this guy. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and basically give our archive databases a name. From a naming convention perspective, the best thing you could do is use the existing database name, and instead of doing underscore primary, just do underscore archive. What's going to happen when we create these archives is we're going to automatically append a character like 1, 2, 3, 4 onto those archive names once we do the archives, so you kind of see them in a chronological order. Plus, the archives are also going to show you the date ranges of the data in each one of these databases. All right. So now that we've renamed our primary database and we've given our archive database a name, we're going to go ahead and enable the scheduling. Now, this is where kind of that no one size meets all type of situation comes in. If I'm an extremely large system, let's say I'm generating 5 million calls a month, I may want to archive every month and keep my archive databases smaller, just like my primary database. I think most people, quarterly is probably a good rule of thumb. But again, this kind of comes down to how you guys use your data and how much data is coming in. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and archive the database on each one of these. So this is going to have the previous 3 months of data. April will have the previous 3 months of data. July will have the previous 3 months of data, so on and so forth. All right. So now that we've set up when we want the auto archives to run, we pick the day of the week that we want it to run on, we pick the time of day, and I'm going to go ahead and just span this out so we don't run one right now. We're going to come back and do that in a second. The next thing that we want to do, and this is why renaming this database is so important, is we want to adjust our primary database purge schedule. All right. Now keep in mind, the primary database is what you really want your users to be querying with regularity. This is what your users are already doing. You know, so they're running their weekly reports, they're running their monthly reports, and things like that. In most cases, we see these kept to about 30 days worth of data because most of our end users are querying relatively current data. Maybe they want to see the previous month's data so they can, you know, generate some monthly reports and things like that. But again, they're usually not going 6 months back every day or every couple days or anything like that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to adjust our primary database purge settings, which is, again, why we want to rename this, because we don't want to purge everything that we have right now. You're setting this up on a cluster on a database that already has data, and if we adjust our purge schedules to, let's say, 30 days, well, then we're going to go through and just purge all of our current data. We don't want to do that, so again, I can't stress how important it is to make sure you rename this guy to _primary. But now what we're going to do is we're going to adjust our purge schedule. On average, let's say we run monthly reports, weekly reports, daily reports. So we're going to take our purge schedule down, and we're going to go down to 0 months. Actually, I'm going to go to 1 month. We'll just keep it simple. And we'll go 1 month, and I'm going to say 2 days, maybe 3 days. We've got our monthly reports that run, so we want those to kind of kick off out of our primary database because our primary database is only going to have about 33 days in it, where our archives will have 3 months worth of data. So on a monthly basis, do we need to be going back to 3 months worth of data? Or on a monthly basis, can we just go back to our primary database and just query, you know, a month and a few days worth of data? So what this is doing, this is actually setting up the purge schedule to keep our primary database under control while our archives get a little bit larger until they archive out and create another database. So now that we've got our purge schedule set up here, we've got our databases set up, I'm going to go ahead and save and continue. So now the next thing you're going to see here is it's going to pop up. It's going to say, hey, you don't have a primary database named primary, and you don't have an archive database named archive. Perfectly normal. If it said the database was found, I would be concerned and I would probably back out because, again, we've adjusted our purge schedule so we don't want to purge our primary database. Want to make sure that we're seeing not found. We're going to go ahead and create both of those databases here. Let's create our primary first. And the order in which you create these doesn't make a difference. And then we're going to create our archive database. All right, so now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and activate processing. So now let's take a look at what's happening. As soon as this guy gets finished creating here. There we go. We're going to close. And now let's take a look at what we've done. So now moving over to my CDR databases section. So the first thing you're going to notice here is now you have 2 databases. You have primary and you have archive. You also have a type of database, primary. This is, again, what you think your users use in a regularity. This is the only database that is going to purge based off of our purge settings. We are not going to purge information out of the archive databases. Why? Because we don't want to. We want that data to continue to go into an archive so that way it can be used later. All right. Now you'll notice I have no data in here, so let me go ahead and dump a little bit of data in here. And let's take this guy here and scoot him over. And I'm going to just move him, and he's copying right now. Now, the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to just venture off of this screen real quick, and I'm going to force that data to go ahead and process. Quick and easy way to go ahead and just kind of force that is just change this guy to 2 minutes here, and it's going to go ahead and force that grab of that data. So right now, data is processing into both databases. it's processing into my primary database, and it's processing into my archive database. So essentially, we're forking the data off into two different databases. Why are we doing that? One, because this guy is going to continue to house 3 months of data before it gets archived off and a new active archive gets created. Meanwhile, my primary database is going to follow my normal purge schedule and only keep about 33 days worth of data in its database. So when my end users are querying their daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports, they're not going to be querying 3 months worth of data that's housed in this archive. They're going to be querying this primary data. Now, let's say hypothetically, well, maybe I do need to go back 3 months. Is there anything you need to do in Verify from a reporting perspective to tell Verify I need to go look at archive databases? Absolutely not. Verify is seamless with automatic database archiving. What it's going to do is it's going to recognize the dates that are within your databases, and then it's going to go back to those databases, even multiple databases, and pull the necessary data, but only from the archive databases or primary, depending on what you're querying. So let's see where we're at from a data perspective here. Give those guys a refresh. I have a feeling a little bit more coming in. So I still have some data coming in. So you can see that I have both of my databases here. I've got August 9th through August 17th. And we'll take a look at the logs real quick and just see if we're still processing any more data in before we go to our next step here.
I do have a couple questions, Vic, if you've got some time.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Looking at that.
Yep.
Yeah, so one of the questions from Matt was if I've got a backlog of old raw CDR data that's not currently in Verify, can I move it to Verify and process it directly into an archive database, or would we need to process into an active database, primary database first, and then turn on archiving?
Nope. So in that situation, if you have a bunch of backlog, I would turn on database archiving first. The reason being is you could then take that backlog, and then as soon as it's done processing, your primary database will purge it down to, in this case, let's say 33 days. But then your archive database would have all that backlog data in it, and during its archiving schedule, it will move it. So that way, again, you're not querying it regularly. So I would definitely recommend turning on archiving first, processing that data in, and let the system routines keep that system efficient, keep that primary database efficient. But then if you need to report that old data, it's going to know what archive to go ahead and pull it off of.
Awesome.
All right.
So one other quick question.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
you did cover it though. It is important. If running a report that spans more than one archive, can the report criteria include more than one source?
Definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It will. If I have 10 archives out here, I mean, think about it. You know, what we're going to be doing in this particular setup here, and even in some other setups, we archive monthly to help keep those archive databases smaller. So at the end of the year, you would have 12 different databases, each with 1 month worth of data in there. When you run a report, if I run a report for a year for Verify, it's going to automatically span across all those different archive databases, even if they're on different servers. So I may have 6 months on one SQL server, another 6 months on a different SQL server. Verify is going to know where to go to be able to grab that data, and it will cross-query all those databases across the multiple servers.
Awesome.
All right. Okay, excellent. So our data is done. We've processed our data in. Now what you can see here is we've gone and we've added all our data, and it is in both of our databases. Now, one thing you may be asking is, well, what about my existing database? Well, where did all my data go? Because we renamed our primary, then we had no data in there. We just processed some new data in there. Don't worry about it. We got you covered. So if you were able to hang out with us during Jim's presentation of multi-database support, all we have to do is go find that other database and then just associate it. And there it is. That was the original one. And if I save that guy, you're going to notice that we now have cluster 1, and it's going to have our old data in there. So we're not losing anything in this case. So that old data, once we start this process, is there, and it's active, and it's online. Online means it is queryable. Nice thing about online is you don't have to leave all your databases online. You could turn them off so that way somebody can't run reports on them, or there's no routines that are ever going to run against them, because basically we're showing that those databases are not even available. All right. So now that we've got it set up, we've pumped a bunch of data into both of these databases. Let me show you how the purge is going to work. So now I'm going to go ahead and navigate back to my CDR processing. Now, when I first set this guy up, if you notice, my purge schedule was set to 48 months. I brought it down to 1 month and 3 days. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and filter that down even more. I'm going to take this down to just 0 days of information. So that way you can see kind of what you have there. Now, yeah, we'll do 1 day. We've got a bunch of data in there. All right. So what I'm doing here is just kind of giving you a demonstration of how the purge is going to work and then how the reporting is going to work. So let me adjust my time here. Let's go ahead and let's see let's see what time we got here. Can I make it? 26? Oh yeah, I can make it. So I'm going to adjust my purge. It's going to clear out all my data. This purge is going to run at 1:27 p.m. So in about did I choose 1:27? Did I choose the right time there?
I think you did.
Oh, I did. I wanted 1:21. Webinar will be over by that time.
See
if I can make it here. All right. So now what I've done is I've adjusted my purge schedule. So you guys would have, normally 33, 60 days, depending on what your normal cycle is that your end users standardly report on. But what I want to show you is once that purge runs, what it's going to do is it's going to purge just my primary database, keeping, again, that primary database relatively small for your day-to-day operations, while my archive database continues to accumulate data. And there you go. You can see the purge already ran. So now when I'm running reports, August 16th through the 17th is in my primary database. Nice, small, one-day database. However, if I need to span reporting, I absolutely could. So let's take a quick peek. So now I'm in my history search. I'm just going to do a very blanket wildcard search, and let's just choose we'll choose the current week, although I'm probably going to get myself into trouble with this guy. Probably shouldn't do this query, Jim. But now what we're doing is we are querying multiple databases. It doesn't matter if these databases are on one server or multiple servers. I'm pulling data from my archive database. I'm also pulling data from my primary database. And depending on how far I go back, I could pull data from that cluster 1 database that was my original database. So the nice thing about that is this operation is absolutely seamless for your end users, with the exception of the fact it's just going to make their reports and their dashboards run much faster, because I'm no longer querying 6 months worth of data or 6 years worth of data just to be able to pull back my day-to-day calls. All right. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do here is let's go ahead and show active archiving in effect. So what we've got here is we've got our primary database, we've got our archive database. Now, normally, like I said, you're going to have about 30 days in your primary database, and at this point, you would have about 3 months worth of data in your archive. So let's go ahead and kick this guy into full gear here. So I'm going to edit my cluster, and we're going to run an archive right now. So I'm going to force this guy to go. It's August. Today is the 17th, and ooh, it just turned 12:33. So let's do 1:24 p.m. So I'm going to kick this guy off so it runs right now. I don't need to adjust anything with my purge schedule. Again, you guys would normally be at, a 33-day, 36-day marker or something like that. We're not going to change anything here. We're just basically forcing an archive to run. So essentially what's going to happen once this guy kicks off is it's going to go ahead and take my primary database and my active archive database. It's going to, remember, keep in mind, everything that's in my active archive is also in my primary. So it's going to go ahead and make this guy active archive 1. Well, archive 1, it's going to create a brand new archive database, which you'll see will have no data in it because all my data is going to be moved down to my archive 1. So let's see if that guy kicked off yet here. I'm just going to refresh my screen. It might be running right now. And there we go. We have a archive complete. So let's take a look at what we've got here. We've got our primary database, and we're going to let this guy, which is not purged. Everything is still there exactly the way that it was before. I've got a cluster one archive. So this is a brand new database right now. That new data, as I process it now, is going to start populating here. It's also going to go into my primary because, again, I want that guy to continue to accumulate my 3-month or my 33 days worth of data. So anybody running their daily, weekly, monthly reports, they're not going to be affected by when an archive runs or where it's pulling that data from. And you'll notice I have my archive down here, which had my August 8th through the 17th. And then here's my old guy. He's just going to continue to hang out there. So now if I run a report for August 16th, 17th, it's still going to go ahead and run from here. If I run a report for the previous week, it's going to pull out of here. It may do a combination of the two depending on where your data crosses. Nice thing about that, again, is that's pretty seamless to verify, pretty seamless to your end users. We're going to go ahead and automatically do that. So one more quick example of what we're going to do here. Let me process a little bit more data so you can see what's going to kind of happen here. And I'm just going to force this data to process. Let's go back to 5 minutes. That should kick that guy off pretty quickly here. I'm going to let our time frames render, and you're going to see that this data, I pumped new data, and I just pumped a small file into archive one. So now I have data again a little bit more in here than that would have been in here, because this is still holding my 33 days worth of data, where this guy here is just going to be housing brand new data coming in going forward. And then 3 months from now, or October 17th at 1:24 p.m., it's going to go ahead and create another archive, automatically name that guy to archive 2. So when I run my reports, if I say, hey, I need some August data, it's going to go automatically go, and it's going to look at archive 1, and it's going to look at my archive here, pull out just the necessary data that I'm querying. Again, leaving my day-to-day reports just still continuing to query that 33 days worth of data. So a couple things about active archiving. When we are dealing with SQLs and databases and things like that, it is important. Roles do matter. We do need a little bit more than just read and write, because we are going to be creating databases. So let's take a look at a database server. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this guy. From our database server, you can see that we have our primary. Again, this one's going to continue to purge. We have our archive 1, which is the new database that just got created. Our archive, which is the first database that we created, or the first archive that we created. And then, of course, here's our old guy that has all of our old data in there. So when we're talking about roles, the verify user, or the person that is connecting to SQL Server, whether it's MS SQL or MySQL, does need to have DB create role, because it needs to be able to create the databases. Doesn't need to be NSA, but it does need to be a DB create role. If you're using the verify OVA or anything like that, or the verify provided MySQL on the OVA, that's already taken care of. If you're using MS SQL on another server, we just need to make sure that that user that we're using for the database servers does have the DB create role, and you could always check out who that user is just by popping over to the gear over here on the right-hand side, go into database servers. And again, because you can have multiple databases, you may have multiple entries in here. And once this guy loads up, you can always edit your database server here, and this is the user that you're going to be logging in with. So you just may want to check that it's got DB create access before setting this guy up. All right, Jim, I'm glad I was able to get through all that, and the demonstrations went flawlessly. Any questions for us?
Always a good thing.
It is. Any questions for us?
No new ones came in.
Okay, excellent.
Covered it well.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and pass the ball back to you, and the moment that everybody's been waiting for here. Passing the ball. There you go, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right. We get no more Q&A, so we'll slide on over to the moment everyone's been waiting for. The winner of this week's Amazon gift card is, let me get my slideshow going here. Mark Cumming, congratulations, Mark. Your
Woohoo!
account manager will be reaching out to you shortly. All right, one more quick mention. If you haven't had a chance to check out our new social platform, Planet Verify, head on over to planet.verify.com and check out our community activity. It's a great source for knowledge on a variety of Verify topics and a good way to connect with Verify staff and fellow customers alike. Feel free to ask any questions about anything Verify related or share tips for other users of Verify. We'll even let you post pet pictures or your favorite fall drink recipes. Getting to be that season. All right. Thank you again, everyone who attended today. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Our next session will be next week, August 24th, where Vic will return again, joined by Matt to present an overview of all the new features coming out in version 13. Thank you and have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, guys.